Today we're looking at the LINNPOWER Evolution MK-1. This is a LaCroix style board, so it's quite big and heavy. As you subscribers know, I don't really cover this type of board. For my environment, I really prefer lightweight boards, lightweight and portable. So why am I even covering this particular board? It's mostly out of curiosity because it's made by LINNPOWER. LINNPOWER! The founder, Lin, he has been involved in the e-skate industry for quite a while. LINNPOWER is probably best known for their gear drives, which are used by Meepo and Ace-Deck. But the founder, Lin, he's actually been involved in quite a few e-skate products for various brands. Nowadays, some of the most notable products are, of course, the gear drives and the racing slicks, the quick release hubs. So yeah, I wanted to cover this board mostly because this is the first time they're releasing a complete board. So as you can see, the EVO Mark 1 or MK1, the EVO MK-1 is, I guess you can call it a LaCroix style board. LaCroix was this e-skate company from Canada that went out of business. They were known for their, I don't know what to call them. They're these boards with really big flat-ish decks with channel trucks and really large wheels. They're not really mountain boards, but they're like big cruisers with a lot of range and a lot of power, but they've gone out of business. The EVO MK-1 is in that same form factor. LINNPOWER! There are two versions of the EVO MK-1. There's the Lite and the Pro. Before I get into the details, let me quickly go through the differences. One of the main differences is the battery. The Lite version uses a 14S 3P Samsung 50S, that's 756 watt hours, and the Pro version uses a 14S 4P, also Samsung 50S, and that's 1008 watt hours. So one has about 30% more range than the other. There's a difference in the drivetrain. The Lite version uses belt drive with a 4.0 gear ratio, and the Pro version uses gear drive with a 4.3 ratio. There's also a difference in weight. The MK1 Lite is, well, it says here 13.8 kilograms, but that's not correct. I think it's 16.5 or something like that. And the Pro version is 18.5. So I specifically requested the lighter version because that's just how I am. I prefer my board to be lighter. Now you might think that 16 and 18 kilograms, it's not much difference. I feel like it's enough of a difference that I can actually feel it. LINNPOWER! Now I'll go through the details of this board and also give you my thoughts from my personal experience riding it. LINNPOWER, they actually prepared this handy dandy PDF for influencers to go through the board, so I'm just gonna use that. The deck itself is 96 centimeters or 38 inches in length, and in width I think it's 27.5 centimeters, which is about 10.8 inches. So the size, the dimensions of the deck, like it doesn't sound huge, but for some reason when I stand on it, it feels like a huge board. I think it's because the concave is relatively shallow. It's almost totally flat, but it's not flat. It's definitely not flat. There is a concave, but it's very shallow. And as a result, yeah, it just feels like a really, really roomy deck. For my personal preference, I feel like it's actually a little bit too big. As you know, I'm used to smaller boards. Also, I'm like 6 feet tall, 182 centimeters, so like I'm not a small person, all right? But even for me, this board felt huge. But like I said, this board is kind of in the LaCroix form factor. So if you know that you like LaCroix and you like big boards, I guess you'll probably like this deck. This deck comes with two different wheelbase options. I'm using the shorter one just to get a little bit more maneuverability. It's crafted from snowboard manufacturing techniques for durability. The flex is pretty good. It's a good amount of flex for absorbing bumps and stuff. Personally, I wouldn't mind if it were a little bit more stiff, but for people who like flexy decks, I guess it's good for you. This deck has holes included for bindings, which you might want if you're used to bindings. Again, personal preference, I don't really like the idea of using bindings because I like being able to run off the board in case of an emergency, but you know, there are pros and cons to everything. Bindings will definitely help you turn on this board because this board I find is kind of difficult to turn. Part of that is because of the bushings, which I'll get to later, but I think the size of the deck and also the lack of concave also contributes to that. You don't get much leverage when you're trying to turn. When I have to make a sharp turn on this board, very often I have to move my feet all the way to the edge to be able to get more leverage and press down farther. The deck also has holes for trampo trucks that use springs, so if you want to use that, you can. The grip tape is very grippy and looks awesome. LINNPOWER! This board uses channel trucks, which is common on mountain boards and LaCroix style big cruisers. The bushings are in two pieces, but they're also kind of attached in the middle. I'm not sure whether to refer them as 2 pieces or 1 piece. I mean, they're technically 1 piece, I guess. In the stock setup, the front bushing is white, which is softer, and the back bushing is red, which is harder. Me personally, I felt like the stock bushings were way too hard, at least for my environment. In the city I live in, it's quite crowded. I mean, at least in my area, there's not a whole lot of wide open roads with no traffic. There's always pedestrians, and there are many places where I need to make sharp turns. So for my environment, it felt too hard to turn. As you can see in the footage, I can still turn. I just need to lean quite a bit harder. Like instead of just regular leaning, I might need to move my foot all the way to the edge of the deck. I might need to move my arm, right turn, move my arm that way, left turn, move my arm that way, turn right, turn left. But the board also comes with an extra set of bushings. It comes with an extra red bushing and an extra white bushing. So after I changed the rear bushing to the white bushing so that the front and back are both using white, it felt much better. For me personally, I would still prefer softer bushings in the front so that I get even more maneuverability. LINNPOWER at the moment, they don't have softer bushings, but LaCroix has softer bushings through Riptide. Those will be compatible, but you're gonna need adapters from LINNPOWER, which I don't think they have yet. So eventually I'll probably put on softer bushings in the front. The trucks are wide. They're really wide. Wide trucks are, of course, better for stability. They also have the downside of making the board feel a little bit more sluggish in its maneuverability. Also, if you're the kind of person who likes to give your board a push before getting on, the width of the trucks might get in your way. Like your foot might end up hitting the back wheel before you get on the board. But again, that's another personal preference thing. Basically, this board is made for higher speeds than how I normally ride. So normally I ride like somewhere between 20 and 40 kilometers per hour. Well, more like 20 to 35. Nowadays, I don't really go above 35. If I'm fully armored up, I might. The top speed of this board is like something ridiculous, like 65 kilometers per hour. I'm not even gonna test that out. If you're someone who actually wants to go that fast, which I don't recommend, okay? There are other types of vehicles that are much safer for going at that speed. Cars, motorcycles, even e-bikes. But if you want to go that fast on an electric skateboard, this particular board, it seems like the stock setup is set up for higher speeds. Obviously, it wasn't set up for low speeds for someone like me. You can see the red bushing in the back for a lot of this footage. That's because I filmed most of this footage before I changed the rear bushing. But right now, I'm using white bushings in the back. Even with the white bushings, they felt very stable. They feel more stable to me than the Propel Ruckus trucks. Hey! If this video is helpful, please give it a like. LINNPOWER! The stock wheels are 8-inch pneumatics, which to me is huge. The hubs are compatible with other sizes, so you can use 6.5-inch wide wheels if that's what you prefer, and you can use up to 9-inch. So with 9-inch, you need a different set of rims, or rather, you need a different set of these plates, these rims. I don't know what to call them. Oh yeah, these hubs, they're quick release, and you don't need any tools to take them apart, which is awesome. If you've never used pneumatic tires on an electric skateboard, most rims are kind of annoying. They're held together by a bunch of screws. You gotta remove all the screws before you can take it apart and change the tire. With this, you don't even need any tools. You just deflate the tire, turn the rim piece, and then take them apart. It's really convenient. The rims, they look pretty cool too. So far, I have only tried the stock 8-inch tires. They're fine to me. So I've ridden them on some rough terrain, cobblestone, grass. To me, they're adequate. My personal opinion is that if you want to ride on really rough terrain, an electric skateboard is not even the ideal type of vehicle. Like for example, a mountain bike is going to be way more capable. Electric skateboards are really more appropriate for street use. But that's my personal biased opinion. There are of course mountain boards for the insane. LINNPOWER! The Pro version comes with gear drive. They use the LINNPOWER version 4.3 gear drive. I think they're also used by Meepo and Acetec. I don't know if they're exactly the same. They might be. I'll just put a screenshot of what they sent me. If you want to read it, you can read it. Me personally, I prefer belt drive just because maintenance is super easy. I mean, gear drive is supposedly, it's relatively maintenance free. You do eventually need to open it up and change the grease. I just don't want to deal with that. With belt drive, changing the belt is super easy, super fast. That's just my personal preference. LINNPOWER! The recent Hobbywing ESCs can actually be connected to the, what's it called? Tuya Smart app. And within the app, you can change a bunch of performance parameters, which is pretty cool. Again, they shared some technical stuff. I'll just post a screenshot. You can read it if you want. The design of the ESC enclosure is pretty cool looking. Or it's not so much an enclosure, it's more like a heatsink. The remote is pretty nice. The layout is like a standard Hobbywing remote. The shape of the remote I felt was pretty ergonomic. The scroll wheel is CNC machined from 6061 aluminum. I'm just reading the text here. I don't know if there's any benefit to the wheel being CNC machined, but it does look cool. There is a CNC machined alloy frame, which also looks pretty cool. I guess that makes the remote more sturdy also in case you drop it.
LINNPOWER.
The battery pack. Nickel strips now feature improved release slots and convex designs, ensuring robust and reliable battery welding. Bunch of mumbo jumbo here, but basically battery failure on electric skateboards is a thing. It's a common thing. It's a very annoying thing. When we compare battery specs for different boards, normally we just look at the cell brand and the cell model. We don't really think about the construction of the battery pack, but that's actually pretty important as well. The pack that they have here, basically it's less likely to fail. So it's a good thing.
LINNPOWER.
So I've just gone through all the stuff they mentioned on this infographic, data sheet, whatever. I guess other stuff you might want to know is like the performance and did I enjoy riding it and would I recommend it? So yeah, the performance is really good for me anyway. Like for really powerful boards, I don't really test the performance anymore just because they're too powerful. I can't really tell the difference between one very powerful board and another very powerful board, especially with the weather being so hot. If I'm gonna full send on a board, I want to be fully armored up. Nowadays in Shanghai, it's just like super hot, ridiculously hot, so I'm wearing a minimum amount of protection. You know that saying, loose trucks save lives? So I don't exactly feel that way, but like I don't ride with super loose trucks. I ride with kinda sorta loose trucks, or no, I should put it this way. I don't really like riding with stiff trucks with very hard bushings because a lot of boards, they ship with a very stiff setup, including this one. Just me personally, I would like the bushings to be softer. Again, this board does come with extra bushings. For me, having the white bushing in front and also in the back was much better than the stock setup, which has white in front and red in the back. But still, I would like the front to be even softer to make the board even easier to turn. For this board, I suppose this is great in the suburbs where there aren't as many cars and the roads are much wider and you have a lot more room to maneuver. So yeah, in that case, I guess the white bushings are probably fine, or even the stock setup, depending on your weight and your personal riding style and stuff. Would I recommend this board? Yeah. If this is the kind of board you want, yeah, I would recommend it, especially for the price, dude. Like the launch price, the introductory price is $1,200 for the Lite version, and for the Pro version, it's $1,500, I think. You can save an extra $20 with my referral discount code. But yeah, I would recommend it. Not for me, not for someone like me. Like if you live in a city like mine and you've never ridden an electric skateboard before, I don't think a large board like this is appropriate for this kind of city. I suppose if I were still in the US, in the suburb, like where I grew up, where the roads are wide and there aren't that many cars, I think this board would be very appropriate for that. There are also like light trails that I'd be able to go on. Basically, this is an all-terrain board, right? If you like all-terrain boards, if you like large boards where you have a lot of room to stand, yeah, I would recommend it. So the Lite version, the introductory price is $1,200. The normal price is going to be $1,600, which is, I think that's still pretty good. The introductory price for the Pro version is $1,500. The normal price is going to be $1,900. If you're comparing with like LaCroix prices or Evolve, yeah, these are really good prices. Very attractive board. That's another thing that stood out to me. Like even the enclosure looks quite nice. It looks and feels like a premium quality board. So pretty awesome. As long as you don't need a lightweight board that you can pick up, pretty awesome. I guess that's about it. If you have any questions, leave a comment.